Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Practical Training Podcast, sponsored by PTPGun.com. Today, we're hosted by myself, Mike Bell, and we got my partner over here.
Ryan Gass.
What's up, Ryan? How you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. So today, we're going to take a little bit of a different spin. We're not really going to focus so much on firearms instruction. We're going to talk holistically about the world of firearms and how kind of living the gun life affects other areas of our life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It wasn't until recently. So many of you guys know who follow the channel. Real quick, if you guys haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button for us. It really does help take it a long way. And if you're audio only, head over to YouTube, PTPGun.com firearms training, and give us a like and a subscribe there. And then leave a comment if there's something you guys want to hear us talk about. But for many of you who have followed us for a while, you know, I grew up in Arizona. It was Atlanta constitutional carry. You know, I was carrying a firearm since I was old enough to carry one. And then moved out here, and the laws were a lot different. And I wasn't really sure if I wanted, even if I qualified, you know, to carry a firearm based on the laws here. It was kind of crazy. And, you know, many of you guys who know me know that I work for the government. And in my past life, I had kind of a teetered kind of, you know, lifestyle. And when I say that, and it's no secret, I've disclosed this, is that I had some run-ins with the law whenever I was a minor with marijuana, right? And it, you know, that was a very long time ago in my life. I'll be 40 this year. That stuff all happened when I was like 16. So it was a long time ago.
Right.
But I did have some run-ins with the law due to marijuana. And, you know, we get, you know, I work the phones for PTP. I sell classes. I instruct on occasion. But a lot of the questions I get are like, hey, Mike, you know, now that weed is legal, can I have my cake and eat it too? Can I have my medical green card and be able to own a firearm or carry a firearm? And in Maryland, at least the guidance that we've been given is that no, you can't. You can't have your medicinal marijuana card, or should I say, be an active user of marijuana and have a concealed carry permit or an HQL for that matter.
Right.
Right. And it kind of speaks to this larger paradigm that we're living in where you have to make a decision. You know, I had somebody come over, Ryan. I had somebody come over yesterday, or maybe it was earlier today or yesterday. They came over to look at regrading my backyard. This is a business owner. He was a veteran. He came with gray hair, had a hearing aid in his ear, you know, older guy, but he does dirt work. He does excavation, and he's on these different properties all the time. And he saw the trailer parked out front, saw the sign. He said, you know, and I didn't start the conversation with him. He started with me. He's like, you know, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with owning a firearm. And I just haven't been able to make that decision in my own life to be able to want to carry one. And it started this whole conversation about kind of living that gun life and having that be part of your life. And it got me thinking, it's like, you know, what decisions do people have to make in their life? What trade-offs do they have to make now? And I want to look at it from two different points, right? There are those who maybe their spouse doesn't see eye to eye with firearms with them. We get that a lot.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's the wife. Here's a for instance. During kind of the unrest that happened a couple years ago, there was I started to hear the stories from wives that were telling their husbands, go out and learn how to use a firearm.
Yeah.
Right. But then there's also the other side of that car where the wife says, we have young kids. I don't want guns in the house.
Yeah.
Right. So there's those circumstances. And then there's like, all of my friends are kind of against guns and I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. And then there's people who want to be able to exercise their right. They want to be able to defend themselves in those situations, but they simply can't. And what I kind of want to talk to you about a little bit, Ryan, is the people who want to exercise their right, but they can't because of some sickness, if you will, some kind of illness, be it physical pain where they use medicinal marijuana or some kind of psychiatric deficiency where they need, you know, something to remove the stress from their lives, right? Things like that. And Maryland State Police, because we're focusing on Maryland, but basically it's across the country, looks at him and says, no, because you use weed, you can't have a gun. And or because you have social anxiety and maybe you need to take Xanax on occasion, you can't have a gun. Or because you had PTSD and you're on this cocktail of fucking drugs, excuse my language, you're not allowed to have a concealed carry weapon. Right? So let's kind of talk about that a little bit. First, let's start on the marijuana stuff. I know there was some stuff that you wanted to hit on a little bit about that.
So to start off, all right, in Maryland, if you have your medical marijuana card, because marijuana in Maryland has not been legalized recreationally, but it has been for medicinal purposes.
It has been decriminalized, is the term.
Right. Yeah, you're right. So yeah. So
But as far as legalized, it's only medicinal.
right. So if you want to in Maryland, and if you've been prescribed by a doctor and stuff, you can legally be able to use marijuana and its byproducts if you have what they call a medical marijuana card. Now, I'm not an expert on how you get that and what qualifies for that. I'm not here for that. I'm not a doctor, but what I find is that people have legitimate reasons for why they need to use medical marijuana for various reasons. And I will say, before I get kind of into this and stuff, my thought process on marijuana as a whole has changed over years with time, maturity, hearing other people's stories and what they go through and how it helps them. My thought process now, all right, and this could develop and change over years too, all right, but based on what I've seen, I've heard, I've felt, what I've dealt with a lot of people from lots of backgrounds, different parts of Maryland, is a lot of people need it. They use it medicinally. It's not a recreational thing for them. They don't get enjoyment out of it. It
You
literally
mean they're not getting high?
right. Yeah. It's not a recreational thing. They're not out getting high and enjoying their Friday nights while watching a football game or something like that. They are using it on a daily basis, and they are using that to be able to deal with situations in their life, whether it is like one lady that I dealt with, and I will never use names and all, or even tell them where they were from. But one lady I dealt with, she had, I believe, some form of cancer. I don't want to say what it was. I don't recall. But some form of cancer, and the doctor felt that using that would help her in some way, shape, or form. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm not her doctor. And additionally, the doctor felt that could be helpful for her as well because of the cancer and stuff. She was dealing with things psychologically, nothing crazy. But obviously, if you're going to have cancer, that's a steep thing to deal with, and that's going to mentally mess with you. I think a little bit, a little bit of depression. I'm sure maybe it's going to take away from your sleep. Also, like pain that's associated with that. And so, long story short, the lady has, based on Maryland law currently, she has to decide, do I wish to medicate in a way that has been found beneficial and recommended by my doctor? Should I do that? Or should I exercise my constitutionally protected right to keep and bear arms? Because that's the choice that people have in that situation. Because you can't have in this situation, and forgive the language, I guess, per se, but you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't take care of yourself and defend yourself in the eyes of Maryland politicians. And that's not all Maryland politicians. Some of them agree that you should be able to medicate as you so choose and as your doctor recommends and still be able to protect yourself. But there are many politicians that still say that, no, that's not right. I think that, generally speaking, medical marijuana should be treated like anything else.
Any medicine.
Yeah, any medicine. Or even not medicine, even recreational.
Well, we're talking medical marijuana should be treated like medicine.
Yes.
Right?
Like some people medicate using Tylenol. Some people use Xanax. Some people use alcohol, whether it's not prescribed ever. But some people are prescribed and use medical marijuana in different forms, whether it's smoking it, eating it, whether it's oils, different things like that. I don't know a lot about that stuff in all the different forms, but there's a lot of different ways people use it. But again, if you have your medical marijuana card, you can't get your HQL, so you can buy firearms. You can't, if they ask about it on the form, which they do, you can't buy firearms, which they're going to ask about on your carry permit. If you want to get your carry permit, they're going to ask about it too. And again, there's nothing you can do, whether it's buying firearms or whether it is carrying them. You can't do that while you have that card, and I think that's wrong. myself. Again, if you're not under the influence, I think that you should be able to use it.
Yeah.
I can go home right now and I can drink alcohol. I can get inebriated. I can get shit faced. And guess what? I can wake up next morning, be sober but hungover. I can be sober and I can put my firearm on my hip and I can go out and do my thing. I can
Yeah.
carry my gun openly or concealed. I can do whatever I got to do.
Now,
But
on that, I don't know. I know we're talking Maryland here specifically, but I don't know any state that allows you to do both.
yeah,
I know DC near us is recreational per
Right.
se, but they don't allow you to do both either.
right. And so where Maryland stands on this as a whole, generally speaking, because I've been to these hearings in Annapolis and stuff, and I testified for these bills. Is like because there've been bills, and there's one right now. I believe it's let me see, it's House Bill 0482, proposed by Delegate Grammer. The
Is
title
he
of
Democrat or Republican? Do you know?
I believe he's Republican. Don't quote me on that, but I believe he's Republican. I believe he's actually a Marine Corps veteran.
Delegate Grammar?
But essentially, what his bill and his bill in the past has proposed is don't ask, don't tell. If they don't ask whether you use medical marijuana or whether you have medical marijuana, and if they aren't able to look into their system and see that you have that, that's not an issue. Because honestly, it's none of their business. It really isn't. And essentially, if that bill passed and stuff, you can have a medical marijuana card and you can still get your HQL and you can still buy handguns and you can still get your carry permit because it's a non-factor. That's what we make it. It's not that they're not so much legalizing the fact that you are able to do both. They're just saying, if we don't ask, you don't tell. And if you don't tell, then we don't, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. And that's the way I think it should be. Just like anything, if I am prescribed this, if I'm drinking that, whatever, and as long as I'm not under the influence, I should be able to exercise my right. Because I get it. Trust me, I get it. Because I do understand that medical marijuana, again, I'm not an expert on this, but it can put you under the influence, and it can alter the way you decide to make how you decide in certain situations. And if you are under influence, I don't think that you should be using a firearm in that respect. But if you're not under influence, if I was legally able to, I might participate in that as well. I could go home after a long day of work and do that. I could participate and use medical marijuana if I was prescribed it and stuff, potentially being under influence, but not be in possession or using a firearm. Wake up the next day sober, just like with alcohol, and go about doing my thing. But currently Maryland politicians say no. And a lot of the people that say no, that bill shouldn't pass, what they say in their mind is, oh, well, we can't, say that you can go and legally do that because it's illegally federally. Federally says, federal law says you cannot be a user.
That's what the driver is, man.
Yeah,
they
say
it's federal law. It's ATF that is hitting it.
Yeah, well, they say, oh, well, federal law says you cannot use marijuana and be a owner or buy firearms. You can't use them. You can't carry them. And they're not wrong. They are not wrong. But guess what? It's also illegal. It's also illegal to medicinally use marijuana under federal law. Yeah. Federal law has not legalized medicinal marijuana, but guess what many states have done?
They've legalized it.
So this is Maryland politicians having their cake and eat it too. They have decided to legalize it for whatever reason it might be, but because they disagree with firearms in some way, shape, or form, they say, nope, we'll ignore the federal government when it comes to using medical marijuana, but we will not ignore the federal government when it comes to medical marijuana and using a firearm because it doesn't align with their agenda. And that's having your cake and eat it too. And that's wrong. Again, you would think that in a progressive state as Maryland stuff, that they would look past that. They could say, look, yes, you can legally have medical marijuana. You can use it responsibly and ethically. And guess what? You can also responsibly and ethically at the same time have a firearm, own a firearm, carry a firearm when you're not under the influence. And I think that's how it should be. Do I think we're going to get there this year? If I'm being realistic, I don't see the opposition to that bill changing their mind.
No,
but I can be hopeful and stuff, and I think that eventually it will change. It's going to take. I think it's going to take a little while for that opposition to open their mind to that, though.
What needs to happen as far as that goes, you need an overwhelming majority in the United States to persuade the nation, the federal nation, to be able to legalize it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just not where we're at yet. So while you were speaking, I pulled up this Robin.Grammer Jr. He's a Republican from District 6, which is Baltimore County. And he's on several judiciary. He's on several committees. One, he's on the Judiciary Committee, but he's also on the House Cannabis Referendum and Legalization Work Group and the Marijuana Legalization Work Group. So seems to be all about the weed, which is, you know what, to each their own. Like I said, man, I don't have a problem with weed. I screwed around with it a little bit whenever I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Since then, I won't mess with it because it's against the law. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to break the law.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have any against or for, really.
I will say I'm not trying to whatever, and I know you get annoyed by this sometimes, but like words matter to me, and the words you choose can affect what people think and act upon accordingly. So like I try not to use the term weed when we're talking about medical marijuana, because weed has, like, whether right or wrong, it has a negative stigma with it and stuff. It sounds more when you say weed. In my mind, at least, I mean, you think more recreationally, you think about like gangs.
Okay, so let's call it recreational marijuana. I mean, that's the push.
Or
medicinal marijuana is already legal.
Yeah.
Now you can't own, and I know that's what we're talking about, is firearms and medicinal marijuana.
Yeah.
But DC is medical.
Yeah.
Or recreational. California is recreational.
I think that
I think it's like 13 states now. It's recreational.
So this is something we need to hit on a state level, but I think it's also something that our federal politicians, you know, the U.S. Congress and stuff, and even the president and stuff, no matter who's in that office, they need to hit this. And I think that and I don't care who proposes it, if it's a Republican or Democrat. I think that this is that decriminalizing marijuana.
It's
on
more
all
than just
levels.
decriminalizing. It has to be legalizing. There's a difference.
Well, yes and no.
It's not yes and no. Decriminalizing means if you're caught with it, you're not going to be punished. All right. But it doesn't mean that it's illegal. There is a difference between decriminalized and legalized.
I understand, but like the opposition to legalizing medical marijuana and or recreationally, and allowing people to possess and own and use and buy firearms, is the fact that it's illegal under federal law. But yeah, whether they decriminalize it or whether they just simply legalize it, I would say that generally speaking, it should be regulated like tobacco or alcohol. Age is debatable, but you know, hey, you know, don't drink and drive. Don't buy alcohol or tobacco or medical or recreational marijuana if you're less than 21 years of age. I think that should be. I think that, generally speaking, I think it's a good rule of thumb. I think it's reasonable that they regulate marijuana and recreationally or medicinally just as they do alcohol. There's no reason why it shouldn't be, and it doesn't matter what party or what politician leads that fight. I think that's a good fight. I think that that was. I'm not trying to get in politics too much and stuff, but obviously it's kind of a side effect of this. I think that was somewhere that Trump dropped the ball, honestly, and it could help them a lot in general, politics wise, let's be honest. And I think that's somewhere that I'm not a big supporter of Biden and stuff. I'm not his biggest fan, but I could support him if he rallied that cause. Because again, it doesn't matter the party. It's not about politics. It's about being just
to me, it seems like common sense. It is not a partisan.
It's not a matter of
decision. It's not a partisan ideology.
Yeah.
It is based on. I mean, I have, same as you, man, hundreds of acquaintances who, and of that, there's a percentage that, legally use marijuana. I have people in my family that do.
Yeah.
I've got friends that do. I don't use it because of my job and because it's illegal.
Yeah.
But, it's not a partisan issue right now. I don't know what the hell the problem is. This isn't a, hey, pro weed podcast.
Right. No,
it's a do weed if you want to.
Yeah.
Right. It's not, I'm not going to sit here. I'm drinking, vodka and cranberry juice. You know what I mean? I don't drink all the time, but Ryan decided to bring a bottle over, so I sipped on it.
Yeah.
But
and I'm not as classy as you, so I got my actual bottle of cranberry that feel a little vodka in.
There you go, man. But the thing about it, my opinion on it is this, and you hit it perfectly. Nothing is going to stop me from drinking this vodka and cranberry juice right now and then waking up in the morning and continuing to conceal carry or open carry for that matter. Or own firearms.
Right.
But if that was a joint or whatever and I smoked it in the morning, nope, you can't own firearms anymore.
Exactly.
It's like that, that makes the most sense to me. It's the hypocrisy.
Yeah. And so my thing is let's move on. I mean, I'm not bringing race into this, but I think that what we're talking about, the whole topic of marijuana being illegal and restricting people's rights, I think that this.
Marijuana is very much a part of black culture.
No,
it is. I know you're not trying to bring race into it, but it is.
No, but what I'm saying is,
and it's disproportionately, marijuana arrest disproportionately lean toward the African American community.
Well, no. What I was trying to get at is like the people that recreationally or medicinally or wish to use marijuana currently, they are like, let's say, the black community in the 1950s. It's not a matter of when or if they will legalize it and allow people to be all equal. It's a matter of when. So I think that eventually,
okay, I see where you're going.
Yeah, I think
I see where you're going with the race.
Eventually, I think that it'll get to. It's not a matter of when, if they will ever legalize marijuana so that people can be able to use it, and then when they're sober, carry and exercise their Second Amendment rights. It's not a matter of if they will. It's a matter of when. So who's going to lead that charge? Who's going to make that note in history? Is it going to be Joe Biden in office right now and the Senate and whoever in the U.S. Congress right now, or is that going to be 10 years from now? Who's going to be in the history books for making that necessary and required change? Is it going to be now? Or is it going to be 10 years from now?
Yeah.
It's going to happen. I think that's only common sense. But who's going to be a part of that?
So I know. So creating this podcast, I've discovered other kind of firearms related podcasts, right? And some of them are hosted by law enforcement. So I'm going to ask you guys out there, right, in the comments section, drop down below. Let us know what you think. It doesn't necessarily, you could talk about the legalization of weed, the interaction use Ryan's words, the legalization of marijuana, or, the interaction of marijuana users and firearms. Yeah. Drop down the comments and let us know what you think. Is it a problem? Some of you are law enforcement. Do you see, and some of you are law enforcement in states like California, do you see a difference? Do you see where there is in the cost benefit analysis, does it make more sense to keep it criminalized or illegal, or does it make more sense to legalize it? Yeah. Let us know, guys. Drop down the comments and let us know. Either, message in the website here, PTPGun.com. Drop down the comments if you're watching on YouTube, or, however, shoot me an email, Mike@PTPGun.com if you got something to say. Yeah. Next time we'll open up the email here and we'll take your guys' opinions and your voice and we'll share it with the rest of the audience here.
And there will be people that say, well, why do you want people to be able to use marijuana and own guns or carry guns? That's going to only create problems. No, it's not. What I'm saying is, if you're not under the influence, just like alcohol, if you're not under the influence, you're not consuming alcohol and stuff, you're not drunk or not, you're not intoxicated, you're not high, then you can use it. If you are, then you can't. It's only a temporary thing. Nothing is stopping me from going out and using marijuana right now, getting high as shit, and go out and carry my firearm or whatever. Nothing's stopping me like that. There are consequences for that. I'm not saying get away from consequences for, DUI or carrying while intoxicated or carrying while under the influence. I'm saying that those who wish to use it medicinally or recreationally should be able to use it in that time span. And then whenever they're not under influence, to be able to own, buy, carry firearms.
I want to add on something real quick so that we are 100% clear with the audience.
Yeah.
I am not advocating for or against the legalization of marijuana. And if I were to advocate, it would be in favor of marijuana. Okay.
Right.
But what I want to say is this. A lot of you people are going to say they haven't figured out how to regulate it yet. I don't have that answer, but there are people out there. This may be a surprise to some of you guys that are way smarter than me. They could probably figure it out. Well, there are people with PhDs out there in economics and criminal justice who could apply all of their years of wisdom and education to coming up with the solution that both legalized marijuana, used it as some form of tax funnel to fund progressive ideas, right? To lift, communities out of wherever situation they're in. That exists, guys. That's how they're marketing it.
Yep.
I don't have the answer. I just think that an answer exists.
And I will say he reaffirmed and established what his position is. I will say my position is I am advocating for the legalization of medical and recreational marijuana. I personally, and my company, because my and then it's not going to include, I'm not going to include Mike into my company, but me and my company, because we're one and the same more or less. I am advocating for the legalization of recreationally and medicinal medical marijuana.
Recreational medical marijuana. He meant recreational
or medical,
or medical
and I do think there is a way to regulate it. Again, put everything the standard we have for alcohol on all forms. I think that can very easily be imposed simply on marijuana.
I think it could, bro, but I don't like that. And let me tell you why. All right. There's too much big money, big government lobbyism involved in alcohol. You see commercials on TV all the freaking time about it. I think the federal government, and this isn't a political podcast, I know that.
Yeah.
I think the federal government screwed up. All right. I think that all that money that the alcohol industry is taxed isn't doing shit for society. I don't. Excuse me. I think it's going to pad the pockets of corrupt politicians.
You're right.
I think that if you do it smartly, okay, and you got the smart people in the room, and as they're advocating and as they're starting to institute legalizing marijuana, both recreationally and medicinally, they can earmark those funds to go to progressive ideas like education, lottery. I think it's 100% of lottery contributions go to education.
I think
or something
Maryland,
like that.
Yeah,
at least in Maryland. I think that you could do the same thing if you dedicate that money to go to specific causes.
Take all the tax dollars from recreational or medical marijuana and put it towards DUI enforcement throughout the state. That's one of the big worries.
There you go. There you go, man.
Boom. I mean, it's. I don't think that it's crazy to think that we could do with marijuana the same way we've done alcohol, because it wasn't too long ago. What was it, 1930s, when we had prohibition? Alcohol was illegal federally. Guess what? It is now obviously legal and stuff. And it's regulated, blah blah. I don't think that what they did. I think what they did with alcohol, they can do the same exact thing with marijuana. There's no reason why they can't. There is no reason why they can't. It's anyone that gives you a reason, it's just a fucking excuses. Excuses like everything. Everyone has one.
Another thing about the excuses, Ryan, perfect summary. Another thing about the excuses is, and I hate taking the show this way, man, but it's people repeating shit that they've already been told by people who don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Everybody loves the confirmation bias. Everybody clicks into the articles that agree with what they're already thinking. Yeah. Right. And it's a mess. And guys, I wanted to take this episode into a kind of a different direction, where we talk about living the gun life. And it really went into this, the controversy, if you will, between being able to treat yourself, either recreationally or medicinally with marijuana, or own a firearm, and be able to defend yourself.
Yeah.
And I think you guys got our perspective on it pretty succinctly.
Yeah.
I would ask you again, if you guys have anything to say about it, if you have your 2 cents, drop down the comments below. I would love to get enough comments to be able to refeature this kind of content right here and answer or address some of the comments or questions that you guys have. So again, send me an email, Mike@PTPGun.com, or drop down the comments below on YouTube, and we'll address that. We'll bring it up on the next episode.
So I've got some more on this. I'm gonna ring your ear for a while. So a couple of things. I know firsthand, and I will not name names, but I know firsthand many people who they could use, and this is an opinion thing to a certain extent, but I know several people that they are of the opinion, I share the opinion, some have gone, where they could use medical marijuana. It's just about medical side. I'm going to keep it focused on that for the most part. I know people that could use medical marijuana, and it could help them address some of the issues they have. And it would help them, and they can still responsibly, when they're not under the influence or not using it, they can still be able to exercise their Second Amendment right. One of which is no longer with us. He was dealing with PTSD and stuff like that, and he blew his brains out with happened to be with a firearm and stuff. But and you can, I'm not gonna again put that person's information out there. I'm not gonna use their death as my platform and stuff. But that person's spouse, they'll tell you that they were going to do that regardless. It doesn't matter if it was a firearm or if they hung themselves or if they ran their truck into a tree. It was going to happen regardless, based on how the situation was going. And I will say again, this is opinion. This is not something they said and stuff, but I will say this is something that I talked to that person about before they died. But he wanted help. He wanted to be able to take and use things that could help him with what he was dealing with. But he felt like if he did, he would either lose his rights, like his Second Amendment rights, which he definitely held dear, and or it would affect him negatively with work, whether current
Yep.
or prospective in the future and stuff.
That's right.
And instead of addressing those issues and getting that help and using those products per se to help himself, he didn't, and he's no longer here. And I think that there are other people in that same position. They want to get help and they want to use different things that they think that could help them based on their research and their talk to their doctors and consulting their doctors and stuff. But they know for fact, based on the current laws, that they did that, they would lose rights, they would lose jobs, they would lose a lot of stuff. And instead of dealing with it in that way, they bottle it all up and then it ends up with something serious happening. So I would like to see that not happen again, but unfortunately, as it currently stands, and I don't see it honestly, I don't see it changing this year. That resource will not be available to those type of people that are still with us right now.
Yeah, you got to make a decision.
Yeah, I mean,
And it sucks. It's we've been using that analogy, cake and eat it too. But really, when it comes to, treating yourself, medicinally with marijuana for whatever reason, psychological or physical, you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
see,
Yeah.
get help and have your rights too. Have your cake and eat it too. How about getting help and be able to still have your rights? And that's what a lot of people are worried about. And it's not that's a conspiracy theory. That's whatever. No, it's very realistic.
Yeah,
If they seek help and they get that type of help, whether it is medical marijuana, whether it is therapeutic help and stuff, whether it's seeing a counselor or this or that, they risk legitimately losing their rights. They risk losing employment, and that's why people don't seek the help sometimes they need. And people always talk about, let's get rid of the stigma. Let's stop talking about PTSD as being a disorder instead of it's just a temporary situation you're dealing with. Instead, the laws like this help further embolden that stigma.
You know what I'd like to find out, Ryan? There's a lot of states in the country that have, permitless carry over 21 years of age or whatever, right? I would like to find out, if you guys are listening, comment on your state if it's permitless carry where you don't have to go out and apply for a concealed carry firearm if you're able to medicinally use marijuana.
Yeah.
And if so, let me know. All right. Because that's going to help us out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of tapped out on this subject, man. You got anything else?
No, but I will say that we'll be talking with Delegate Grammer, and I want to bring him on to talk about this because he has been a big proponent. He proposed this bill this year on the House side. He's done it for multiple years. I think damn near every year he's been in office, which I think he came in office in 2015. And the guy don't know me from Tom, Dick, or Harry. He doesn't probably know my name and shit. But I want you to know that, I've seen you out there. I recognize your efforts, and I want to talk about those on this because it's a thing that I think is worth talking about and worth discussing. There are people out there that maybe disagree with my position. I don't care. I don't care. But I do want to open your mind to it because there are some people that might have had the same mindset that I had years ago, you know, because that was kind of drilled into me and blah, blah, that like, if you use marijuana, that you're not going to be productive, that this and that, like, it's just whatever. There's no need for blah, blah. But, you know, through my life experience, seeing a lot of people and stuff and class and stuff, I've seen a lot of people that do use it, that do find a need, that do see the benefits, but are not able to exercise their rights. And I've also, again, seen people that do see the need, they do see that it can help them, but they don't get that help because they know they're going to lose their rights. So you have people on both sides of the aisle when it comes to that. They use it, but they don't have their rights. That want to use it, but they want to keep their rights. And I think that you know, I greatly appreciate Delegate Grammer on the delegate on the House side, pushing this bill every year, even though, you know, obviously it's failed every year until now, and it may very well fail this year. But I'm hoping that eventually, through his efforts and hopefully ours and lots of other people's efforts out there, that eventually we can move on past this dark time in American history where this, you know, natural medicinal element is being demonized. It's just, I think we need to move on past that.
Absolutely.
So,
Well, guys, as I mentioned, there was a few different calls to action in this episode here, guys. If you want to, if you've got comments about what we talked about, reach out to us. If you live in a state that's permitless carry and legalized marijuana, reach out to us. I'd like to know more about how that works. And as always, guys, for me, learn, defend, prevail, and we're out.
I'm not out yet. I'm going to give you one last call to action. I don't really say this too much, but share this video. Share it on Facebook Messenger, share it with a bunch of people and stuff. This is something that I would like to definitely see pass, amongst other things, but I think this is something that is very important. I think that could help a lot of people. I don't think it's going to hurt a damn person. I don't think it's going to hurt a damn person, but I think it'd help a lot of people. And I think it's worth sharing. So if you can, share this video, and looking forward to talking to Delegate Grammer here soon.
All right, guys, with that, we're out here. Deuces.
Stay strapped and get clapped. And if you don't register your weed or your guns, you can keep both.